But there was a mass shooting in New York City. 4 people were shot. 1 police officer was killed, and the suspect had put a bullet into his own body to kill himself as well. Let's tune into the video, see what's going on out here in these
Breaking
streets.
news here in New York City tonight, where officials say a suspected shooter inside a Manhattan office building has been, quote, neutralized. A law enforcement official tells CNN tonight that 4 people are dead, including an NYPD officer on the scene. Police believe that a man with a long rifle walked into a Park Avenue skyscraper just north of Grand Central Station this evening, with law enforcement sharing this photo of the person believed to be the gunman entering the building. You can see there in broad daylight with a massive gun in his hand. It's that building that houses the corporate offices for the National Football League, Blackstone, and the accounting firm KPMG. Multiple law enforcement officers tell CNN the shooter was found dead inside the building from what officials believe to be a self-inflicted injury. Right now, the New York Police Department says they believe the shooter acted alone. And this hour, the mayor, Eric Adams, says police are searching the 634-foot building floor by floor. The FBI is on the scene right in the middle of the country's largest city to assist with the investigation tonight. I want to go straight to CNN's Shimon Prokupecz, who is live on the scene in Midtown.
Now, y'all know how I feel about New York. Y'all know how I feel about the crime. Obviously, I think it's pure evil, but this one I don't specifically blame on New York because this guy was not even from New York. But New York it has so many good things about it. But the bad things that go on in New York outweigh the good so much that people are not feeling safe in the streets of New York. Whether it's their everyday neighbors that are robbing you at gunpoint, stealing your purses and your phone on mopeds, or mass shooters that are coming into corporate offices and letting bullets off and killing themselves. People do not want to live like this anymore. They don't. And I know they say, oh, we've seen a decrease in crime. The reality of the situation is there's still so much. And it's not all about systematic obstacles that are in our way. No, people are out there just trying to do these evil behaviors. And it's sad, man. It's really sad.
Manhattan. And Shimon, you've been there for hours watching as this developed. Obviously, we can still see behind you there is a massive police presence still on the ground. What is the latest so far that you're learning?
Yeah, Kaylin, the scene out here remains active, almost as active as when I got here around 7 p.m., just 20 minutes after all of this unfolded. And when I first got here, I mean, the scene was just harrowing. I saw officers with long guns and tactical gear racing up Park Avenue, going into that building, going into a nearby building, searching for people, making sure they could get people who may be in harm's way out safely. They went into all of these buildings, searching floor by floor. And as you said, the search still ongoing. As you can see behind me, I'm going to step out of the camera so Rod could show you. Many of the officers are still here. There are fire department officials. There are several ambulances, as you said. The number of dead has grown. The police and emergency officials still very much searching the building, still here in the area. This has turned into a crime scene. Also significantly, a off-duty police officer who was working a paid detail here, which we see all across the country really, and really in New York City, where there are off-duty officers who are allowed to wear their uniforms, and they work to make extra money. It's essentially a way for them to make extra cash. And that's what this officer was doing, standing outside this building when the gunman shot him. And luckily, perhaps in some ways, this may have prevented a much larger tragedy, this interaction between this off-duty officer and the gunman. So we are now waiting for the NYPD and for the mayor and other New York officials to hold a press conference.
total people
Things
dead.
are somewhat
four people
slowed now
dead.
because of the death of this
3 regular
officer.
citizens
The NYPD
and
needs to gather this officer's family
police
members,
officer.
bring them to the hospital, inform them of what happened, and certainly they want to do that, Caitlin, before they have any kind of press conference, make sure all the family is aware, make sure they notify the other victims.
Sick
One
and
of the
tired of the
eerie
evil,
things,
y'all.
and I
I'm
can't
sick and
get
tired
this
of
out
it.
of my head, is when I got to this
I'll be
scene,
honest.
watching people in the building, and the building is
We
just
don't want it
over my
anymore.
left shoulder here, watching the people in the windows who were in that building where the gunman was believed to be, standing
Never
there
did.
trying to figure out what was going
Disgusting
on,
behavior.
and the NYPD just flowing in, running towards the building. It was such a chaotic scene in some ways, but also such a frightening scene, because even for those officers who were arriving here, if they weren't wearing tactical gear, they were being told to stay off Park Avenue, to go down the side streets, just in case the gunman started firing out of that building and this became a sniper situation. So that was the scene that was unfolding. Obviously much different now. Police are working this scene, and now sadly notifying family members, gathering those family members before they release any more information. They know a lot about the gunman at this point.
Yeah.
They are working through that information, Caitlin, so we're waiting to hear more from officials. But,
it's
certainly some frightening moment out
Gunman
here.
took his
Caitlin.
own life.
It's gut-wrenching to think about what one
they're not
family
gonna get the
is going
motive
to get
of
that
this,
phone call
but
tonight,
hopefully they
and
find out
just
some
devastating. When I was
evidence,
talking to some other police
probably in
officers
his
here in New York
house or
earlier
something
when
that
they learned that this officer had been
led to
killed.
why he did
And
this.
Shimon, I think you
When they
make
have done
an
this.
interesting point
It's a
about
sad day in New
just
York, man.
the unknowns here and the confusion as this was all happening.
Sad
People
day in
in
New
this office building. I mean, can you just put in perspective for people who don't live in New York what part of town this is in, what this looks like? I mean, it is a very busy area at that hour as we were learning about this happening and just trying to figure out what was going on.
So this is Park Avenue, Midtown. I would call it Midtown, the east side of Midtown. Actually, people will know this. We're just blocks across the street from the Waldorf Astoria. This is the famous Waldorf Astoria hotel that is just reopened. We're not far from the St. Patrick's Cathedral. There are a lot of financial institutions on this street. JP Morgan Chase just opened their new building here. So there are a lot of banks, a lot of financial institutions, a lot of law firms on this street. We are about now 7 blocks from Grand Central. So this is really a part of New York City with a lot of corporate space, with a lot of office building, high-powered individuals. You're talking about in this building, Blackstone, you're talking about the NFL. So when the NYPD got that call, I mean, this is something they train for. But I have lived in the city my whole life. I have worked in the city. Cannot recall a situation like this before. And to see the NYPD respond in this way was quite gut-wrenching, to see them running towards where they believe this gunman was.
Shooting.
Yeah, especially as
You
we've
know the
learned tonight,
troops
one
is
of their
gonna pull up.
colleagues has been killed, and as we are still learning more, Shimon
You know the
Prokupecz, we'll
troops
check
is
back
gonna
in with
pull
you as we get more news throughout the hour. I also want to bring in CNN's chief law enforcement and intelligence analyst, John Miller. And John, I know you've been speaking with sources and learning more about the profile of the suspected shooter. What more do we know about him at this hour right now?
He's a 27-year-old man. He apparently drove to that location by car, although we don't know from where he drove. He starts off life in Hawaii, where he was born, went to, looks like high school, then shifts to Las Vegas. In Las Vegas, we are told by sources who are developing the background on this individual that he obtains a private investigator's license. Don't know at this point whether that was with a larger firm with more experienced people, or if this is something that he did to start his own business. It does require some experience to get the license. Then we also are told that he has a concealed carry permit to carry concealed weapons, handguns, in Las Vegas from the Las Vegas Sheriff's Department there. They are on the way to his residence and are there now, where they are locking that down to determine who does he live with, what family members are there, what information can they glean from them, and if he lives alone, to secure that residence so that when they get a search warrant, they can first make sure that that is safe, looking with the bomb squad for any booby traps or anything else, and then conduct a search, very much like what we have seen in other similar cases, whether it was the attack in New Orleans on New Year's Day or the attack on Las Vegas later that same day. This is a thing where you're putting together that profile of the suspect, because what they want to know is, what was it that brought him there? First, what they want to know is, was he acting alone? From all appearances, so far that's the case. But what brought him to that building? What was the target, which would tell us what was the motive? We know that in his younger days, his life was all about football. And we know that the NFL headquarters is in that building, but it's not on the floor where he was found or where he targeted additional people, which was far above that. So they're really putting together the pieces.
Well, and John, when they're putting together those pieces, I mean, two things. When you say that he had a private investigator's license and also a concealed carry permit, I mean, as you're putting this together and you're looking at this image, I mean, just alone, that image is beyond striking, to see someone just in broad daylight in the middle of Manhattan with a massive gun in his hand, walking into this office building. Obviously, there's tons of people on the streets of New York. He could have targeted any of them. He's going into this building. I mean, if you are law enforcement and you're digging into his background, knowing those three things, what are the immediate questions that you're asking yourself tonight?
Well, the first immediate question is, let's make sure he was not acting in concert with someone else. That's been going on since the first minute. But the second question, and that can be asked at a much slower pace, is, what connection does he have to that building? What connection does he have to anything or anyone in that building? What can we glean from his social media,
a lot of unanswered ones,
which I've been looking at,
and we ain't gonna get to find out
very
any
much
of the
at
questions,
first glance
the answers to
about
too.
what was going on in his life. Did he have some cause? Did he have some grievance? Was there some theme that we can connect with someone who is headquartered at that building? Because going from Las Vegas to 345 Park Avenue at 51st Street, in the heart of what is probably the most elite set of buildings in corporate America, means you had to have a reason for doing it.
Let me know y'all thoughts about this down in the comments below, man. I'd really like to know y'all thoughts. Thank you guys for tuning in. I do appreciate y'all viewership. Very sad day in New York, man. We praying for the families that lost their loved ones. You know, we praying for all the families that are dealing with this traumatic loss right here. A lot of people are definitely grieving today, and you know,